The AllStar app, the #1 app in the business. UFC, Bellator, One Championship, PFL, and more. Get the app right now. Link in description. What's up, man? It's been a while. It's been a
I
while.
know. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also because I haven't fought in like a year and a half. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
you've been in the lab. You've been in the lab cooking, right?
I have
That's
been,
why I'm here. I'm
honestly.
here to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm here to talk about all of that good stuff, right? What you've been up to for the last pretty much 18 months, right? You've been away for competition. Why did you decide to take such a long break?
Well, initially it was because of my surgery, right? I had surgery on my left arm, like for about I'm gonna say like 3 fights at least. I couldn't. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, okay, sorry. Sometimes my AirPods kind of mess up, but yeah. For about 3 fights, I've had some pretty bad problems with my left elbow that I never really shared with public, and I could barely jab, and I couldn't really block punches properly. Like if I blocked a punch, my arm would get snapped back, and then I would have a dead arm for like 2 minutes at least. It was always like 2 minutes whenever I look back at my old rounds, but yeah, and oh,
That's some
and then
scary shit, man. Like in a
yeah,
fight, like your arm goes dead. That's like to me like a regular person. I look at that and be like, whoa, that like your whole, like pretty much your left side is you have no defense.
yes, and I developed. It's funny enough, like I developed rolling with punches, and I also developed a good shoulder roll, but then I also developed other bad habits. Like I get kicked, and everyone started targeting my calf, which never hurts me, so I don't know why anyone ever does it. And yeah, like people would just try to hit me in the face all the time, and it would look clean, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, it hasn't been the best. Um, but dude, it's gotten a lot better ever since. And I also took like a little mental reset ever since, you know.
So let's dissect a couple things you were talking about. The first thing is your elbow, the surgery. Making that decision. Was it easy for you or was it difficult? Because it's a scary thing to go under the knife.
Yeah, I was pretty nervous, honestly, because that was my first ever kind of big surgery, and it sucked not training for like a solid 8 months. But I was like, I went through a lot in my head, you know. I had to try to clear up my headspace, which I think I did. And in that whole time, I started thinking about other things like improving my fight IQ and watching a lot of film and tape, and just adjust like some sort of movements. Um, so I didn't waste my time, while I couldn't like physically train. I like did something. Plus, like when I was able to move my arm, I like did the airdyne bike every single day, so I didn't like get too crazy out of shape, you know. Um, but that whole elbow thing, it was scary because I didn't want to take time off, you know. And that's what I was worried about. Like, we just got to the UFC. Um, I'll take care of it. Like after my fight with the Nah, I was just like, I kind of I want to take, I wanted to keep going, So like, I didn't want to waste my time. And after after I lost to him, it kind of like opened my eyes. Like maybe I do need to take some time off. So yeah.
Was 8 months, is that normal for recovery for elbow surgery?
Um, I think it was three. It's funny because they told me 3 months, right? They're like, okay, 3 months and then you can return to normal activity. And then it was 3 months after my elbow surgery, and then they were like, oh no, like you could return to normal people activity, but you can't train yet. I'm like, ah, so you got to be more specific with me with that. So it took about 6 months, and then yeah, it took about 6 months, and then like at the end of the year, 2021. I started actually training again. So It was close to 8 months.
Was there any like physical obstacles during that time with the rehab and everything?
No, I mean, honestly, the rehab and everything went pretty smooth. My left arm's actually physically, like, it's better now. Like, I can actually throw my jab. I can block punches. I can keep my hands up now, you know. So, and I know that will help me out a lot in the future. Getting not getting punched in the face, you know. So yeah, it's been it all went well.
So it seems like it was injury is always bad, but it's like a blessing in disguise to sit back and recollect yourself and like you said, upgrade the the software, with the fight
Hmm.
IQ and all that stuff. How did that? What was the steps for that for yourself?
So for that, I started off just with a lot of film study. I watched every single fight that had happened. Um, and then I started catching clips like of people's specific breakdowns and everything. And I started watching Barry Robinson a lot. So like a lot of like weird things that you'll see everybody does, right? Like a lot of people do this thing called that he calls the rhythm step, and it's like a subconscious movement that we all do, and it's kind of like a reset. But in that reset, you're kind of vulnerable, you know, and learning how to capitalize on it, and also when to disengage when people do the rhythm step, because it's like after you're done doing the rhythm step, then you get like offensive, you know, because that's what we do on pads. So like it started off there with him. Then I started training with him, or not training with him, but just watching film of him, asking him questions. And from then, I needed to do. I couldn't just do it like in my head, you know. I need to like apply it physically. So I tried training here at Arizona Combat Sports with some of my sparring partners, and from there I realized, oh shoot, I have like two training partners here, you know, that are like consistent. One of them is a up and coming guy. His name is Cedric Katambo. I think he's 2-0 in the LFA right now, but he's a 55er and I'm a 35er. So we can't like, you know, he's too big, but I'm used to sparring with him. So it's not too big of a deal for me. But I actually made a switch to Fight Ready, to train at Fight Ready with because my brother trains there full time now. And we're up there with Henry and a whole group of guys that are my size that are all UFC, Bellator, ex UFC, and whatnot. And I started doing that like toward the ending of last year, and the improvements I've made with like Santino, DeFranco, and Eddie Cha and Alan Byers, like with all the extra stuff that I was doing in the past, like I feel like I've grown a lot, and I feel like even my coaches agree right now. Like I'm super under the radar right now, like with how well I've grown.
So you feel like, like what is it? Before you made your UFC debut compared to now, like heading to this fight, it's just another person, like another skill set that you just acquired.
Completely different person, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like I limited so much of my skill set with the way how I used to fight, and I guess a lot of people considered it pretty entertaining back then. Like, well, especially because like all I try to do is knock people out with my hands, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like I have so many other weapons. Like I feel like I'm pretty much good everywhere, and I just never knew how to really put it together, you know. And especially with this camp, it's literally the most organized camp I've ever had. Um, from like pad work, I barely used to get any pad work before, even before like getting signed to the UFC. I was never like put to the side and drew like did pads like one-on-one kind of thing with my coaches. Um, yeah, we'll work on small techniques, a lot of different drills, striking, and then like same thing. Like I'll be taken to the side and we'll drill like some wrestling specifics, jiu-jitsu stuff, kickboxing drills, and everything, and then putting it all together. And now I actually have a strength and conditioning camp, like added to it, and a nutritionist to help me get my weight down too. Like when I
Yeah.
say this is literally my most organized camp ever, it really is to a T.
You're like a professional athlete,
Yeah,
basically. Like you got everything covered.
I actually feel like a professional athlete. Yeah, it's it's kind of nice in a way, you know. Like I get to focus on myself with this, and I don't have to try to figure it out on my own. Just kind of what I did, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, having a full coaching staff makes a complete difference for a fighter, especially the
Yeah.
stress that they have to go through to if they're organizing their own camp or whatnot, it takes a huge load off, right?
Hmm. Oh, it's crazy, and like just the science of everything too, you know. Like I don't know if you've heard about like how Fight Ready is. It's like really they're really scientific with their training. Like I never knew all the little details with like just conditioning stuff to get started with. And then like talking with Henry a lot. Both Henry Corrales and Henry Cejudo. Like I like to talk to them a lot, like about their little details with everything and like their concept of distance. And I don't know, it's just been really nice, honestly. It's a big. I've grown a lot, I feel like.
Yeah, I was talking with another UFC fighter that is in the same position as you. They lost their first two fights in the UFC. They're heading into the third fight, and one of the big takeaways was that they can't fight like they did on the regional scene anymore. They have
Hmm.
to mold, and also you have to kind of look at the judging as well. You know what I mean? Sometimes, these big shots they land, but the pitter patter can actually
Hmm.
score you more in rounds. You know what I mean? And not chasing the finish as much
Hmm.
as you did in the regional scene. Do you see that as well?
100%. I was just talking to I was talking to Eddie Cha about it today, actually, like the difference from how I used to fight, like to now, like volume is such a big thing. Um, I just have to try to score, like it's like playing tag, right? I just got to hit you and not get hit back. And even if I do get hit, like I got to try to outscore you 3-1 in a round. If I'm moving backwards, I got to outscore you for sure 3-1. And if I'm going forward, pressuring, keep that pressure and just exactly what you said, pitter patter, touch, touch, right? And it adds up, right? The the scoring, the numbers, and then eventually I can just like, I mean, I don't have to try to look for a finish if I'm winning, you know. And
Yeah.
not that I don't ever look for the finish, I always do, but it's like it comes a little easier, you know, because like especially if they know they're down, like then they start to get over aggressive. Then I could capitalize on stuff like that, you know, like um timing for me with the proper distance. That was like it's like a big thing that's changed for me, especially
Yeah.
comparing my last two, actually my last three fights when I look back at them.
Yeah, it's like allowing your opponent to make the mistake so you can finish them rather
Hmm.
than you forcing the finish. Because sometimes forcing the finish will happen, but then
Hmm.
other times it's reversed. Like you're doing what you want to do to them, they're doing it to you, right?
Yes, exactly. That's why you gotta like catch on to like rhythms or certain like aspects of what they do, like trying to catch their rhythm or like that's not the right word, like their patterns or something,
Yeah.
right? Like you feint and see how they react, and then you can capitalize it. And if, especially if they're trying to rush in, like can you get them to rush in sooner than they want to? You know, so it's like I don't know. It's been good. That's all I gotta
It's a
say.
chess match, man. It's a chess
Yep,
match. They don't
yep.
know. Like a lot of people just see the violence, right? But it's such
It's
a
like
chess match in there, and
chess
everybody's
versus
just getting
checkers.
better and better and better. So it's like
Yes.
in the next 5 years, we're gonna see a lot of like extreme chess matches in that octagon, man. I see it, man. And people are gonna be like, oh, it's boring, but yo, it's like the name of the game is to hit and not to get hit. And
Exactly.
and you gotta see the beauty in that as well, right?
Hmm. And the technique and everything. I hate it when people do say that though, because it's like when they say that, like you'll see someone get hit with a clean shot, and Like, well, a lot of us were watching it and they're getting tagged up, but like people are calling it boring because all they really want to see is a knockout, you know? And I'm like, well, at the highest level, you might not see that all the time, you know?
Yeah.
That's except for like heavyweight or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
it's true, true.
yeah.
Let's talk about this fight coming up, man. You got the Ultimate Fighter 29 champion, the winner, Ricky Turcios. You know, do you watch the Ultimate Fighter? A lot of fighters seem like they don't watch it, and
I know.
you know, do you
I
watch it?
I actually went back and watched a lot of his film.
Okay.
So a lot of his fights. He's awkward, man. And
Mhm.
it's kind of a shame because we're both Filipino, you know. So it's like Pinoy on Pinoy crime over here. Um, I don't know. He seems like a really nice guy. Um, we can start off there.
Mhm.
But for him, it's when I watch him fight, it's so weird. Like we were talking about distance, right? I feel like his his idea of distance is like a little off, in my opinion. I think his idea of distance is a little off. Um, I know he's tall. He's got good jujitsu. Um, and he throws. His last fight, he threw a lot of punches in the air. Like when I was actually surprised we got when we finally got the matchup for like on Twitter when it showed up
Mhm.
and Instagram and stuff. I wasn't getting as much hate. Like he was getting a little bit of it actually. Like some people were calling him the male version of Michelle Watterson, and I'm like, wow. I mean, Michelle Watterson actually hits people though, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, and his awkward feints and yeah, I think it's a tough fight, but I think it's a good fight. And in my
Yeah, it's a
opinion,
puzzle. It's a puzzle,
yes,
but it's a different kind of puzzle, right?
yes, like the awkward people are always the hardest to fight. But you know, like I think not that there was any pressure for me to take it or not take it, but I felt pretty good about that one. Like that one will help me level up in a way, you know? That's how I
Yeah,
feel about
there's
it.
always those types of fights, right, where you're like, okay, I'm gonna return, and I've made these kinds of improvements, and then sometimes the UFC tosses you a matchup where it's like, okay, I get to test this stuff out against this
Yeah,
guy, man. So you must be like very excited to show like different aspects of your arsenal and a better like you said earlier, a fight IQ.
yes. And I don't know if they're gonna go back and watch any of my previous fights, they're gonna get the wrong. I think they're gonna get the wrong idea of the kind of fighter I am right now. And yeah, I'd like to give out a little bit more, but I kind of just like for you guys to see it when it comes,
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure, for sure.
because it's
Yeah,
definitely
that's what it's about.
I am not the same. Yeah, I beat myself up last year,
Hmm.
so that's just how I feel about it. The last like I beat almost every version of myself up right now, the way how I am, just from
Hmm.
this year's training.
Now, you know, there's always expectations, right? And you
Hmm.
got your coaching staff, and they're gonna have their expectations of you because they know how good you are and how different you are from the previous two fights. You know, give us a little taste of like what you think will happen in this fight.
In this fight, um, say this, my forward pressure is going to be a lot smarter this time. Like, I'm not just going to stand in front of him like how I was, like, especially like my debut. And my UFC debut, I was kind of just standing in front of the guy getting jabbed, right? And I don't know, like, too much standing in front, not paying attention. I'm always paying attention now. Not that I wasn't before, but I feel like my what I'm thinking of in my head is better. My fight with Dana, like I practiced a lot of lateral movement, like moving around sideways. But if you look back at that fight, I was also doing a lot of rhythm stepping,
Mm.
kind of like I was talking about with Coach Barry. And I've done my best to get rid of all the rhythm stepping and L stepping, that useless movement per se. So I'm not gonna. I want to say I have a more calculated approach now that will eventually find a finish after outscoring this guy for
I can't wait to see it,
however
man.
long.
I can't wait to see it, to be honest, because, like,
Yeah,
you know, that's why I like talking to fighters and getting into all of that stuff, is because, you know, you want to see them evolve, you know what I mean, and change and become better, and especially with, you know, such a great coaching staff, it's gonna be fun to watch, man. November 19th, UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas. If you want to know more about the event, go in the descriptions and download the AllStar app. Kevin, always good catching up with you, man. Like I said,
yeah, man.
I'm excited to see the new version of you, and all the best in the fight.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. And it's always great talking to you, dude.